As the first light of dawn touches a rugged landscape, a small group of early humans steps out from a limestone cave. Their day has already started. Some scan the distant terrain for animals, while others collect twigs and branches to feed the ever-smoldering fire. But what truly occupied the lives of our Paleolithic ancestors? The stereotypical image of cavemen hauling women by the hair and swinging clubs at mammoths does little justice to the real depth and complexity of their existence. So, how did they spend their time in a world where survival demanded constant attention? When we talk about cavemen, we're referring to humans who lived during the Paleolithic era, a vast span stretching from roughly 2.6 million years ago to around 12,000 years ago. This period makes up more than 99% of our species' history, long before agriculture, cities, or writing emerged. Yet this immense time frame was anything but static. It witnessed major innovations in tools, social structures, and artistic expression. We understand their daily lives through various sources. Archaeological digs that yield stone tools, hearths, food remnants, and sometimes even fragile items like wood or textiles. Cave art and portable artifacts offer a glimpse into their symbolic thinking. While modern hunter-gatherer societies provide comparative insights, though such comparisons must be made cautiously due to the immense time gap, it's essential to recognize that the Paleolithic experience wasn't the same everywhere. It differed drastically by geography, climate, and era. For instance, Homo habilis living in Africa 2 million years ago lived in a very different world than Cro-Magnon humans, decorating cave walls in France 20,000 years ago. Climate was a major driver of these differences. Glacial periods in northern regions required survival strategies unlike those in temperate or tropical areas. Those near rivers developed fishing techniques, while forest and grassland communities focused on different flora and fauna. What all Paleolithic people shared was a hunter-gatherer way of life, relying on a mix of hunting wild animals and foraging for plants. Let's travel back in time to explore the rhythms that structured their days, seasons, and lives. With no artificial lighting, their day began with the sunrise and ended with nightfall. Their schedules shifted with the changing seasons. Mornings often started with tending to the fire from the night before. Sites like Terra Amata in France, dating back some 380,000 years, show hearths that were essential not only for cooking, but also for warmth, protection, and light. Since fire starting was difficult, they typically preserved embers or used slow-burning materials overnight. The early hours were likely dedicated to tasks best done in daylight. Groups would evaluate the day's needs. Was food running low? Did tools need mending? Were animals nearby? Fetching water was also a daily necessity, often collected in makeshift containers fashioned from animal bladders, woven baskets, or later clay vessels. Rather than a rigid schedule, their routines revolved around a blend of immediate tasks and longer-term planning. At places like Gesher Banat Yaakov in Israel, dating to nearly 800,000 years ago, evidence shows deep understanding of seasonal plant availability, suggesting strategic foresight. Food gathering dominated much of the adult population's day. Men often hunted larger game, while women focused on plant gathering and trapping smaller animals. However, this division was fluid. Archaeological records show significant flexibility in gender roles. Midday could involve preparing meals, repairing tools, or resting during hotter periods. Hunters returned later with meat, when successful, while gatherers brought back plants. Evenings around the fire likely involved storytelling, planning, and reinforcing social ties. Obtaining food was a central concern. Early humans likely began as opportunistic scavengers. By 500,000 years ago, evidence from places like Boxgrove in England suggests they engaged in coordinated hunting. A horse shoulder blade pierced by a spear reveals they weren't just picking off leftovers. Initially using hand axes and wooden spears by 400,000 years ago, they had begun making expertly crafted spears at Schigenin in Germany, balanced for throwing. Spear throwers emerged around 30,000 years ago, increasing range and accuracy. The bows appeared in some areas by 20,000 years ago. But hunting was unpredictable. Gathering plants proved more reliable. Paleolithic people consumed a wide range of edibles, roots, berries, nuts, seeds, and leafy greens. Analysis of ancient dental plaque has revealed traces of numerous plant species, including ones used medicinally. Gathering required vast ecological knowledge, knowing what plants grew when, where they thrived, and how to prepare them safely. This knowledge was passed down, shaping a sophisticated understanding of nature. Fishing also contributed to their diet. At Coster in Illinois, a 9,000-year-old site, researchers found fish hooks and net weights, showing well-developed fishing methods. Seasonal availability influenced their strategy. Spring brought eggs and greens, summer berries and young animals. Fall focused on nuts in preparation for winter, when stored food and hunting were crucial. Though storage options were limited, some groups dried meat into early jerky, used underground pits, or even relied on natural freezing in cold climates. Their diet was surprisingly varied, more so than early farming communities. Skeletal analysis suggests they were generally well-nourished, with fewer nutrient deficiencies than early agriculturalists. Cooking played a pivotal role in unlocking calories and detoxifying plants. But, while it's hard to date precisely, fire-controlled cooking goes back at least 400,000 years, perhaps much earlier. Tool-making was another constant task. Tools dulled quickly and needed sharpening or replacing. Skilled toolmakers could create a usable edge quickly, but complex items took time. The earliest tools, old-on cobbles with chipped edges, evolved into symmetrical Acheulean hand axes around 1.76 million years ago. Later, the Levallois technique gave artisans better control over shape and size. The Upper Paleolithic from around 50,000 years ago saw a boom in specialized tools, burins for engraving, scrapers for hides, awls for punching holes, and refined projectile points. These tools weren't made randomly. Their designs reflected a deep understanding of materials and their functions. Wood, though rarely preserved, was a common material. Sites like Clactononsea yield shaped wooden spears. Later, antler, ivory, and bone became important, fashioned into hooks, needles, harpoons, and ornaments. Food processing tools like grinding stones or pounding implements helped prepare tough or fibrous foods. Containers were essential. Early people likely used natural vessels like shells and gourds. By the Upper Paleolithic, evidence shows woven baskets and stitched hide bags. Pottery appeared around 20,000 years ago in China. In colder periods, clothing became crucial. They scraped hides clean with stone tools and stitched garments with bone needles. Despite the stereotype, caves were just one type of dwelling. Natural shelters were used when available, but constructed homes were common. At Terra Amata, remnants of oval huts, 8 to 15 meters long, were found. In Ukraine, 15,000-year-old homes were built using mammoth bones arranged in circles, likely covered with hides. These dwellings were organized around central hearths, with designated areas for sleeping, crafting, and eating. Maintenance was ongoing, fires needed tending, shelters repaired, and trash removed. Some sites even show distinct dumping areas away from living quarters. Children was embedded in daily life. Unlike today's age segregation, children likely watched and joined in with adults from a young age. Personal hygiene, though hard to trace, was likely practiced. Ethnographic parallels suggest use of fibrous plants for dental care and regular bathing. Community care extended to the injured or ill. Skeletons with healed wounds or long-term disabilities show that those unable to work were still supported. Social life in the Paleolithic was rich and dynamic. The basic social unit was the band, 20 to 30 people from related families. These groups weren't isolated. Evidence points to regular contact and trade. Materials like obsidian or shells, found far from their source, suggest trade routes spanning hundreds of miles. Food sharing was central to community life, creating mutual bonds. At sites like Vastanis, large hearths imply communal meals and gatherings. Art played a vital role. The earliest confirmed artistic activity includes ochre use at Blombos Cave in South Africa, nearly 100,000 years ago. By the Upper Paleolithic, humans were painting stunning cave murals, crafting figurines, and even playing music. Bone flutes dating back 43,000 years in Germany play recognizable notes. Though drums made from hides or logs rarely survive, they likely played a role in ritual or entertainment. Medicine existed too. Dental plaque contains plant residues with healing properties. Some cave art shows human-animal hybrids, possibly representing spiritual or trance states linked to early shamanic practices. Though conflict did occur, some skeletons bear violent injuries, it seems less common than in later times. With abundant resources relative to population size, competition may have been reduced in many areas. The Paleolithic way of life was humanity's longest-lasting and arguably most successful adaptation. It supported our species through ice ages, across continents, and into nearly every ecosystem on Earth. What lessons can we draw from this enduring lifestyle? First, Paleolithic people were active shapers of their environment. They used fire strategically to enhance biodiversity, seen in Aboriginal fire practices dating back 65,000 years in Australia. Second, their lives required broad, general knowledge, from plants and animals to weather and social systems, contrasting with today's specialization. Third, their tools, though simple in form, were highly effective solutions refined over millennia. Many modern technologies build on Paleolithic foundations. Most importantly, this era saw the rise of symbolic thinking, art, language, culture. The Paleolithic wasn't a crude prelude to civilization, but a sustainable, intelligent, and creative human existence that spanned the vast majority of our history. So, what did cavemen really do all day? They juggled short-term survival with long-term planning. They made and cared for tools and shelters. They gathered, prepared, and shared food, passed knowledge to their children. They created music and art, maintained social relationships, and adapted to a changing world with flexibility and ingenuity. When we revisit their legacy, we don't see brutes, but clever, adaptive humans, technologists, botanists, artists, and community members whose achievements still echo in our lives today.